Today we're going to focus on the first field of the four fields. This is where Jesus goes into empty fields and engages lost people. And he has two entry strategies that he uses all the time. The first is Oikos, and the second is person of peace. Today we're going to talk about Oikos. Now, Oikos in the Greek simply means household. For us, it's better explained by a relational network. You've already been exposed to the Oikos in the 411 during the who portion or the who question, and you had to draw your relational network map. Now we're going to get a biblical basis for that Oikos map or relational network map. If you would, turn in your Bible to John 1:35 through 49, and with your buddy, read that out loud and look for the relational connections between Jesus and the men that are mentioned in that passage. The first person that we see in the story is John the Baptist, and John is going to introduce two of his disciples to Jesus, Andrew, and later on we would figure out the second disciple is John. Now, Andrew immediately gets his brother Peter and introduces him to Jesus, and then Jesus tells them, hey, I need to go to Bethsaida and talk to Philip. And so they all go to Bethsaida, and then Philip, once he's connected with Jesus, he goes and gets Nathanael and introduces him to Jesus. Let's look at the various relationships. First, John the Baptist was the cousin of Jesus. And then we have the brothers, the fishermen, Peter, Andrew, and John. And then Jesus says, I need to go talk to Philip, who lived in the same hometown as the fishermen. And at the very least, he was an acquaintance. And then Philip gets Nathanael, maybe his friend, made an acquaintance, and he brings him to Jesus, so they're connected. So this is a great example of Oikos, relational network, and how it all comes together. So what I want you to do right now is get with your buddy, retell the story, and connect the dots in all the relationships between Jesus and these men. Go ahead and practice. All right, good job on the practice. So we see this one example in Jesus' life of Oikos, relational network. But if this is a strategy, then we're going to see this happen over and over again, not only in Jesus' life and ministry, but in the disciples' life and ministry. So can you think of other examples where we see the gospel flowing through Oikos, the relational network? Yes, in John 4:39, we have the woman at the well going back and telling everybody in the village. Now, remember, she was probably not famous, but infamous. So here we see an example of Oikos that you wouldn't expect leading people to Jesus. And then, Luke 8:39, the demoniac, another real good example of an infamous person. In Mark 2:14 and 15, we see Matthew, whom Jesus recruited, takes Jesus to his house for a party and introduces him to his whole relational network. And then in Luke 19:9, we see that Zacchaeus, another tax collector, does the exact same thing. And we see in the book of Acts, Acts 10:24, Cornelius and his whole household comes to Christ. Acts 16:31 through 33, the jailer and his household. And then Paul talks about Stephanos and his household in 1 Corinthians 16. So we see examples of oikos, where the gospel spreads through the relational network. And this is one of our key strategies for reaching the world for Christ. We first look at our own oikos and share the gospel with those that we know. We teach them to share the gospel with the people that they know, and the gospel spreads much more rapidly through these relational networks.